Hi everyone, this is Arpad from Starpath Academy, and we are live tonight. Actually, I just want to test out the OBS software and see if we can do live streams this way. So hopefully maybe a few of you will connect and we can have a short discussion about anything you would like within the limits of anything that is possible on YouTube. So thank you for joining. I'm actually just testing out OBS and see if we can do more lives and have conversations that way. And feel free to suggest topics. I will be reading some comments in the meantime and giving my 2 cents on what you have to say on my channel. I always appreciate good comments and you bringing up topics. Can you give me a quality check on the sound, please? 1 out of 5, 5 being the best. If you could do that, that would be awesome. All right. Okay, well, while I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna be opening some comments here. All right. G Laszlo says, thanks for the good views. Always makes me a bit less nervous when watching your videos. Only gold, or do you think silver has a place too? Well, thank you very much for the comment. I believe both have a place. It didn't really have too much place back in Romania because we didn't have the culture for silver. Well, we didn't have it for gold as either after communism. However, we did understand the value of it, and we did understand what was it good for, and it's I mean, we picked it up very fast. However, we didn't have monetary silver. I think gold would be better for long-term hold and possibly even holding it through hyperinflation and using it towards the end of hyperinflation when it has peaked and it's actually falling back, and then it's better to transition out of some of your gold into other assets that will be valued after hyperinflation, as the economy, or at least some parts of the economy, would be picking up. And at that point you would want to go out of gold and into cash producing assets and value producing assets. May that be a factory, may that be real estate, commercial real estate, and so on and so forth. That because those would have been fallen in value during the hyperinflation, of course. And probably even real estate in the big cities at that point after hyperinflation, right? Whereas silver, I think it would be more during hyperinflation, or even towards at the beginning of hyperinflation, in my opinion. Well, people say for barter, but I don't imagine it for you going out with your silver coins and purchasing food or anything like that. But for bigger items, I mean, let's say maybe you need a machinery or that sort of stuff, and maybe some farms are under stress and they have to liquidate, and then silver would come into play, right? And you could use that in order to purchase some of that assets during hyperinflation. But you have to watch out. I've been telling this, that you'd never want to expose yourself to entities that could take advantage of you. So you have to watch out how you do dealings. Usually what has happened is you actually convert your goods during hyperinflation into cash. Even though it's hyperinflating, you are converting it into cash, right? And whoever you are going to deal with on the other end, he just thinks that you have just enough cash in order to purchase their goods, and you don't expose yourself to entities that you should not expose yourself to. And then that's why we had these changing houses and so on and so forth that were kind of trusted by the community, and that is where you would change your foreign currency into local currency, gold into local currency, and so on and so forth. And usually originally these were illegal, whatever, but the need was so high for it that everybody just looked away, and even governments used it, or at least cops and so on. So they served a very well-defined purpose, and usually they had bodyguards or something like that around these. It started out with people standing on alleys with some bodyguards, right, and even the local cop paid off and so on and so forth. However, eventually these became more semi-legal to legal, and then that is where you would do these changing. Now, of course, exchange rates were horrible at first, but with competition growing, and then even between family members changing different types of currency, it was getting better and better. Eventually got really good, right? Because maybe some family members had to travel abroad, work there for a foreign currency, right? Send that foreign currency back. Maybe some other family members, neighbors needed the foreign currency, then they would sell it. So we were constantly changing cash into different types of currency and other stuff. And to be honest, because even during hyperinflation, a lot of people never really lost totally the faith. They would still think that oh yeah, this is the point where we're going back, and inflation is ending now soon, right? And that lasted for 7 years, and they all got wiped out. And right, and that could be also your uncle or your aunt, right? It doesn't matter. If they got fooled by the system, they got fooled by the system. So yeah, quite unfortunate, but that's what has happened. Where I wanted to go with this is that eventually you get these trusted entities where you swap I could see coin shops or that sort of stuff kind of having extra features in the future. And then there you would do the trade, and then you would do the trade in cash. I mean, that is what my experience tells me. If now, of course, if you have a farming community, or you live with the Amish, or and you actually have a community which you use or barter with, you could just trade directly in silver. But I think there's an underlying trust that needs to be there in order for that to happen. And if that's not there, I think it's very hard to achieve that. All right. So yes, the short answer is you need both, and you have to be really smart and kind of aware of your surroundings, but also political sphere and where the country is heading, right? And you never want to always, you want to make sure that you never show your cards, basically. So I hope that answered your question, but you need both and all of it, right? Diversifying is good. So let's take a look at the live chat. Thank you for joining the live video. This will be a short one. I'll take some live questions as well. And I hope the stream is doing well. At least quality wise. All right, so then let's take a look. Sound is 5, perfect. Cash to hold, small notes or larger notes. Sound is good. Okay, well, For deflation, you definitely want smaller notes, and for inflation, you want bigger notes, but you never want too much cash. You always just want just enough cash in hyperinflation. We're not there yet. I'm just saying, in a possible future hyperinflation scenario, of course, you want larger bills because they get devalued soon, and the smaller bills will be just pieces of paper, and nobody would actually want to use that. So, and of course, the story is that, my aunt stacked cash even towards the end of hyperinflation, what she thought it would be the end of it. Of course, it wasn't. And she was stacking the highest denomination bill at that point where she was stacking it, and she rented out land in order to survive, basically. So after the fall of communism, she got some of the land back that was originally my great grandfather's, and she rented that, and that's how she was able to get paid in crop, basically, right? And I guess she turned some of that into cash, hoping that the situation will change. Eventually, she passed away, and actually, me personally was the one who found the stack of cash. But by the time we found it in the house, right before it got liquidated, the huge stack of 10,000 Romanian lei, that was the denomination of the bill. It got so devalued that the whole stack didn't buy you a bicycle. So you gotta watch out what you do during hyperinflation. Now, of course, that's not the case for deflation, which might be coming now. So that's why, even though I'm not a financial advisor, I always say you'd have to have operational cash for at least 6 months, right? In order to make sure that you don't get pulled into a trap, a deflationary trap during hyperinflation. And we have seen the chart, even gold during hyperinflation in Weimar was stagnating and actually falling in value at the early phase for 2 years, right? So if you have rentals and so on and so forth, you have to watch out that you don't fall into that trap, and you have operational cash for your assets for at least 1 full year. In my unprofessional opinion, of course, ask your own financial advisor. Human Vegetable says accelerate. Okay, accelerate inflation, I guess. I guess the sooner the better, right? And it's over. Well, I don't know. I hope we can stop it. Right. Is this financial? I'm not sure what he says. Future career paths. Okay. Is gold too high to buy now? I guess it depends what the Fed will do. My guess, well, I'm again not a financial advisor, not investment advice. I can see gold dropping from here, but I don't see it will be such a meaningful drop that you can quadruple your money. So in my personal plan, I just slowly acquiring it for the long term, and storing it out of the country, basically. I'm not planning to buy or wait for the huge dip, but I'm guessing that, I don't want to make like big predictions here, but my guess is that gold will drop if the economy collapses, because it will get also liquidated in order to get cash, right? And gold didn't drop so much compared to like some of the tech stocks or some of the unicorn stocks. So my guess is that eventually people will run out of everything. There will be a buying opportunity, and I guess you can take advantage of that, but maybe it never really materializes, so it would be dumb for anyone to really wait for that. But I'm seeing gold price probably dropping at least to 1,500, 1,400. It's really hard for me to see it even below 1,600, because at that point my guess is that it will just detach. The paper price will detach from the actual bullion price, and the premiums will be again so high that it really doesn't make any sense. And most likely the actual value or the actual price of it, where you can still actually get it physically, I don't see it dropping below 1,600, but of course it can drop to 900. Who knows? I'm not here to make predictions, but my guess is that in order to stop inflation, well, actually a bigger market crash needs to happen, and that will sort of stifle or inflation, but I mean, at what cost, And I think a market crash needs to happen, and within that market crash, I think the market crash would also crash the price of gold and silver. Do you want to wait that out? I don't know. I'm not waiting for it. What's good, Arpad? Hi, Van. Thank you for joining the live chat, man. I just saw one video stating that with the coming housing crash, we will also see a drop in rental price. Do you think this will happen? I think so. I think it will happen, but I do believe it will be regional. I don't think rental price will drop in such a homogeneous way where it just drops everywhere 20% or everywhere 40% or something like that. I don't believe that. I don't see that happening, but I do see that some of these big metropolitan areas where people have been priced out of even the rentals, or the average rental price is like $4,000, and people are getting crushed by inflation, right? During the not a professional here, not giving investment advice as usual, you know the drill. I'm just here to give my opinion, and my opinion is that in the previous market crash of 2007, 2009, actually we didn't have this massive inflation, if I remember correctly, right? At least it wasn't crushing the it was a deflationary crash. A lot of people got out of their job and so on and so forth, and they had to move back home, or so to speak. But I think right now, because of high inflation and because the food price and the absolute necessities are stacking up to a bigger percentage of the average person's salary, actually they will start cutting back at Netflix and all of that stuff, but eventually they might cut back on rent, and they can just move downwards. And my guess is that, okay, if you had a job in the big city and you can do that remotely, you'll move out of those places, which are crime and all the other problems that they have. I mean, just look at San Francisco and some areas, right? You have these apps to track poop on the street, for goodness sake. So they are overvalued. It will drop immensely, in my opinion. But some of those people will have to go somewhere. So I think that will compensate for drops somewhere else, and those people will be moving out from the cities. That's my guess. Now, what will happen, I don't know, with big gas prices. So I think it is a bit different. Historically, and this hasn't really happened, because if a lot of people are moving out of or selling their own houses, usually they just rent. So rents have stagnated or even sometimes gone up during a housing crash. I do believe this is a bit different though, because inflation is eating away so much of the budget of the average people. In order to stifle that, my guess is that government will be coming up with new schemes, like they always do, whether that's communism or Australia or both at the same time. They will come up with taking some parts over of owning the real estate, or coming up with 40 year mortgage. Or I mean, it's not uncommon now, right, in Eastern Europe, where actually the government, the bank, and you together buy the house, and you have the least rights in that house, but you are liable for everything that happens to that house, right? And that's whether that's Prima Casa program in Romania, or whatever the name is in Australia or some other places. It's usually almost like a student loan type of deal, where compared to the US student loan type of deal, where you cannot get rid of the loan with bankruptcy or anything else, right? And basically the bank will want a guarantee from the government that whatever happens, they will squeeze the money out of you, and you will still have to pay, right? So some of these schemes already have been implemented. They most likely will be implemented in order to keep some markets up. And if you can take a look at big money and smart money, they're still purchasing up, especially in Florida and some of the southern states. They are still purchasing huge swaths of land from developers and developing rental housing communities. I don't know exactly what will happen, but my guess is that they are still betting that it's still a better place to put their money, right? To park their money at least, in order to escape a possible further crash of the stock market and so on. So that's my guess, right? But I'm thinking also government will have their toe even further in the water, and new green stuff will be scattered across every sector. And what I mean by that is like, for new housing or whatever, for rentals, you'll have like energy efficiency stuff. You'll have other bunch of stupidity or overly controlling government stuff that will be implanted in housing in order to help these huge companies, where they can compete easier against smaller landlords. Because what I'm seeing here is, of course, you will rent everything type of deal that the world economic idiots have been pushing, right? So that type of deal, so that's what you have to watch out for. And one of the reasons why I'm saying that, at least I'm trying to pick states who don't sign up for the idiocracy, right? I'm all for saving the environment, don't get me wrong, but I'm not in favor of huge entities that control governments actually controlling your life and saying what you should do, right? So that's what I'm against. And I'm thinking that there will be more tricks coming along the way. So you have to watch out for those as a landlord. I hope that answers your question. Should we buy seeds? Yes, you should buy seeds and produce seeds as well. Absolutely. Organic seeds, of course, and all the good stuff. And trade seeds. Actually, seeds, or the good quality seeds, are getting very, very expensive if you have looked at the market recently. So it's probably a good investment as well. All right. Hello, blessings to all. Hi, Amanda. Vyom Patel. I hope I pronounced that name right, or at least close. Do you think an Indian passport will be more valuable than a Canadian one? I mean, that's hard to tell. I mean, yeah, I think it will, at least Indian passports, because of the BRICS countries, eventually will get more and more valuable. That's my guess. I don't know so much about the Canadian one. Will an Indian passport surpass the Canadian one? I don't know, but I would definitely keep my Indian passport if I can. All right. Let's see if any more questions. When you were living in the country during hyperinflation, how many lived in your family's house? How many were in your trusted community helping one another? How many would have been ideal? I mean, it's, you know, you gotta watch out for some people, whether they are family or not. You have to watch out for them in the sense that they might have problems, and even one of those is too much. And you can never have enough good people. So in that one room and one bedroom and one kitchen, right, that little mud brick house that we lived in, it was, let me just count, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think it was around 7 people, but it wasn't all the time. So like my uncle was coming and going, and my father as well. And I counted the kids as well. So, but we also had another house very close by where my aunt was, and sometimes we would go there. And also in the same community, I guess, the same small town, lived my grandmother's cousins and more family like that. And in a different small town, again, at least around 12 of us. So I think around maybe 10-15 people is ideal. If you live together close. If you have more than that, then you kind of have I would want to have some kind of system where you constantly help each other, but you're not together at the same place. I mean, it gets culture by culture is different, but at that point I think it could get chaotic. So you would want some distance, like of course walking distance or something like that, but you would want close families together. And like we were more together with on my mother's side of the family, I guess, and maybe on certain weekends on my father's side of the family, helping them out, or them helping us, or them actually giving a job for us or for my father, right? But you kind of have to feel out what works best, because what you're looking for is that synergy, basically. So I would say the answer is different based on culture, based on your family, and based on so many things, right? How crowded? I mean, yes. I mean, there were two beds in the kitchen, right? So 2 beds in the kitchen. So it was just 4 people in the kitchen, and another 4, I believe, in the room. And there was a colder room that was shut off, right? And that was closed, so we could heat it easily during the winter time. So it was the kitchen. Again, it was kind of an open kitchen. I mean, it's a bigger kitchen. We could fit 2 beds in there, plus still a table would fit. And the mud brick actually really helped, because you would heat the whole place out just with the cooking you did in the evening, and that would actually I mean, we had an iron stove it also had a gas part, but we could also, there was a part that you could use firewood in it. So we would cook with the firewood, right, on the iron stove, and after that we would just let it burn down, and we would use the same heat in order to heat the house, right? So you gotta watch out what you do. Of course, we had good ventilation, and we always checked everything, making sure that the smoke, we wouldn't have no problem with that, right? Yeah, Thanks for sharing. I appreciate your insights. Thank you, Jay. I think that's it for today. I really just wanted to test out this software, see if it's any good in order to make live streams. And looks like we had a good, fun half hour here. Right, the title, Inflation Self-Sustaining Phenomenon. So that would have been the original topic that I wanted to talk about, but it's always much more fun to just take questions. I guess we'll expand on it in a future video or by demand, but I wanted to mention that one thing that kind of the Fed missed the opportunity, because was that they did not really calculate the fear factor in people. They usually just use mathematical equations and supply and demand and that sort of stuff. However, I remember like the fear that people had when inflation really kicked in. I'm not saying like 10% what we have now, or 15%, 10% that they acknowledge, right? 15% or more on some assets, especially food and some other more important stuff. But once that fear kicks in, people start getting rid of the cash, right? All the cash they have, and they don't even care what they're buying. So at that point, it's like the flame of the inflation. Like I'm thinking of like a fire that's burning. Once it's really hot, right? It's actually the heat rising. It sucks up the air, and it's actually making its own vacuum, right? Especially if it's in a fire, like a rocket stove or something like that. So that's how I imagine inflation. Like it's a slow burning, and can be maintained for a long time. But once you lose control, it's actually a self-sustaining phenomenon, because it's a loss of faith in the currency, right? And I mean, how much would they have to give you, right, in a savings deposit in a bank for you as interest, so that you would think that it's worthwhile keeping it there, when you go out and you take a look at the inflation in gas price and it has doubled, right, in some places? Like, when can you get 100% return on your investment at a bank savings account, right? Like, just imagine if how much money you have to spend on gas. Now, of course, gasoline doesn't store well, but you can take other examples and other assets that you have to buy, and food and all of the rest of the stuff. So eventually, what is the rate that the Fed will have to raise it? 5%, right? 5%, 10%, 20%, right? It has to be bumped up. It actually they have to go ahead of the curve. In order to stop it, you cannot just trail inflation. You have to shock the market. And right, Powell don't he's paying so much attention to the stock market that he cannot do it, right? And if it doesn't shock it, I think this inflation, at least in the commodities, or at least in the actual stuff that is necessary for you to live, I don't see it stopping. It might slow down because a lot of inflation has eaten away a lot of cash already, and the wealth effect is disappearing in the stock market, so people might slow down. But in order to stop it, right, and not naturally dying off, you have to go ahead of the curve and shock the market by a higher interest rate than what is at least the CPI, right? So I'm still expecting it for them to raise the rates. And to be honest, I only see at this point inflation dying off with the economy going into a complete shock. Yes, that would stop inflation at this point. But if the fire keeps on burning forward, then even that won't stop it at some point, because that will just feed the inflation loop of, oh my God, let's get rid of absolutely everything. The whole system is going down, right? And at that point, a loss of faith in the currency and the loss of faith in government. And that is the big problem where political shifts happen, right? That is something you have to watch out for. All right. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right. Thank you very much for joining this live, and hope to talk to you soon. All right. Bye, everyone.